I helped raise my son's kids, but their mother took all the credit until truth spoke. I never thought love needed a witness. I believed that the hours I poured into those children, the scraped knees I bandaged, the nightmares I chased away, the tears I wiped with these old, trembling hands, would speak for themselves someday. I thought love left fingerprints on the soul, marks too deep to erase or ignore. But I learned something painful in my twilight years. When someone else tells your story, they can rewrite every chapter. They can make themselves the hero and turn you into nothing more than a shadow in the background. And the cruelest part? The ones you love most might just believe them. Welcome, my dear. This is Grandma Alice Stories, where every tale carries a lesson and every wound carries wisdom. Pull up a chair, pour yourself some tea, and settle in close. Today's story isn't easy to tell, but it needs telling. Because sometimes the quietest sacrifices carry the loudest echoes, and sometimes the truth waits years before it finally finds its voice. The first time I held my grandson, Marcus, I knew my life had changed forever. He was barely 6 pounds, all scrunched face and tiny fists, screaming his arrival into this world like he had something important to say. My son, David, stood beside me with tears in his eyes, and for a moment, just a fleeting, beautiful moment, everything felt right in the world. "Mom," he whispered, "I don't know how to do this." I squeezed his hand. "Nobody does, sweetheart. You just love them and hope that's enough." His wife, Melissa, lay in the hospital bed, exhausted and distant. Even then, I should have seen it. The way her eyes drifted to her phone instead of her baby. The way she sighed when the nurses brought Marcus to her for feeding, like he was an interruption rather than a miracle. But I pushed those thoughts away. I told myself she was just tired, just overwhelmed. First-time mothers often are. 3 years later, little Sophie came along. Another beautiful soul, with her father's eyes and a smile that could melt the coldest heart. By then, the pattern had already established itself. Melissa would hand the children to me with barely a word. "I have a meeting," or "I need to run errands," or simply, "I can't right now," and I would take them. Of course I would. They were my blood, my heartbeat, my purpose. David worked long hours at the construction company, trying to build a life for his family. He'd leave before dawn and return after dark, his hands rough and his back aching. He trusted Melissa was home with the children. He never knew that most days, she'd drop them at my door by 8 in the morning and not return until dinner time. "Where does she go?" I asked David once, carefully, not wanting to plant seeds of doubt in his marriage. He shrugged, tired. "She's building her business, Mum. That social media consulting thing. She needs time to focus." I bit my tongue. I wanted to tell him that children need focus too. That they need their mother's hands, not just her presence at bedtime. But I stayed silent. I told myself I was helping. I told myself this was temporary. Years became a decade. I taught Marcus to tie his shoes on my front porch, his little tongue poking out in concentration. I held Sophie through her first heartbreak in middle school, when a boy named Tommy told her she wasn't pretty enough. I made pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse every Saturday morning, attended every school play, every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game. I was the one who noticed when Marcus struggled with reading and got him the help he needed. I was the one who discovered Sophie's gift for painting and bought her first real easel. And Melissa? She was there for the photographs. She'd arrive at school events in carefully chosen outfits, her makeup perfect, her smile radiant. Other mothers would compliment her on how well-behaved her children were, how articulate, how kind. She'd laugh that practiced laugh and say things like, "Oh, it takes so much patience," or "The sleepless nights are worth it," or "I always tell them, kindness costs nothing." I'd stand in the background, in my simple dress and comfortable shoes, and watch her collect praise for seeds I had planted. At first, it didn't bother me. I told myself I wasn't doing this for recognition. Love doesn't keep receipts, I thought. Love doesn't need an audience. But something began to shift inside me the day of Marcus's 10th birthday party. Melissa had organized it at their home, a beautiful house David's hard work had paid for. There were balloons everywhere, a magician, a bouncy castle in the backyard. Parents mingled, Children shrieked with laughter, and in the center of it all stood Melissa, glowing with pride. "You've done such an amazing job with him," one mother told her. "He's such a respectful, intelligent boy. You must be so proud." "I am," Melissa said, placing her hand over her heart. "It hasn't been easy, but David and I have worked so hard to give our children the right foundation. Every sacrifice has been worth it." I stood nearby, holding Sophie's hand, and something cracked inside my chest. Every sacrifice. Our children. As if I didn't exist. As if the thousands of hours, the countless meals, the whispered prayers, the patient lessons, as if none of it had happened. Sophie tugged my hand. "Grandma, are you okay?" I smiled down at her, blinking back tears. "Of course, sweetheart. Grandma's just getting old and sentimental." But I wasn't okay. For the first time, I felt invisible. Erased. I had given so much of myself that there was barely anything left, and the person who had given the least was taking all the credit. That night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my small living room surrounded by photographs. Marcus and Sophie covered every wall: graduation from kindergarten, first day of school pictures, art projects, certificates of achievement. My entire home was a shrine to them. And in every photograph, I saw my love reflected back. But would they see it? Or would they only remember their mother's version of events? I picked up a photo of Marcus at age 5, covered in flour, helping me bake cookies. His gap-toothed grin filled the frame. I remembered that day so clearly, how he'd insisted on cracking the eggs himself and got shell in the batter. How we'd laughed until our sides ached. How he told me I was the best grandma in the whole world. Did he still think that? Or had Melissa's story already begun to replace mine? The phone rang, jarring me from my thoughts. It was David. "Hey, just wanted to thank you for coming today. The kids had a great time." "Of course, sweetheart. I wouldn't have missed it." There was a pause. "Mom, I know you do a lot for them. More than you probably should have to. I just want you to know I see it. I appreciate it." My throat tightened. "They're easy to love, David." "I know. Sometimes I wonder if Melissa really understands how much you—" He stopped himself. "Never mind. I should let you rest. Love you, Mom." "Love you too, baby." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness, David's unfinished sentence hanging in the air like smoke. He knew. On some level, my son knew. But knowing and confronting are two different things, and confronting the mother of your children, the woman you've built a life with, that's a storm most men would rather avoid. I understood. I did. But understanding didn't make the ache any less real. That night, I made a decision. I would continue loving those children with everything I had, but I would start keeping records. Not out of spite, but out of truth. I would document the moments, save the cards they made me, keep the drawings they colored. Because I had a feeling, a grandmother's intuition that's rarely wrong, that someday, the truth would matter. What I didn't know was how soon, someday, would arrive. Or how devastating it would feel when it finally did. They say the truth has a way of surfacing, like oil on water. No matter how much you try to submerge it, it always rises. I spent years watching Melissa paint herself as the perfect mother while I remained the silent brushstroke in the background. But children, bless them, they have memories that don't fade as easily as we think. And sometimes, the smallest moment can the years rolled on like a river that doesn't know how to stop. Marcus turned 13, all lanky limbs and cracking voice, trying so hard to be a man before his time. Sophie was 11, caught in that tender space between childhood and adolescence, still wanting to hold my hand but embarrassed when her friends were around. I continued my routine. Monday through Friday, they'd arrive at my door after school. Melissa would drop them off with a distracted wave, sometimes not even putting the car in park. "Thanks, Alice," she'd called through the window, already on her phone before I could respond. Not, "Mom." Not, "Thank you so much." Just, "Alice," like I was the hired help. I'd get them settled with snacks. Marcus loved my homemade oatmeal cookies. Sophie preferred apple slices with peanut butter. We'd tackle homework at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd raised David, where 3 generations had now learned their multiplication tables and spelling words. "Grandma," Sophie said one afternoon, her pencil hovering over her English assignment, "Mrs. Henderson wants us to write about our hero, the person who's influenced us most." My heart did a little flutter, the way it does when you're hoping for something you know you shouldn't expect. "That's a wonderful assignment, sweetheart. Who are you going to write about?" She bit her lip, and I saw the conflict cross her young face. "Well, I was thinking about writing about you. But Mom said I should write about her because she's my mother and that's what daughters do." The cookie I was holding crumbled in my grip. "Your mother said that?" "She said it would mean a lot to her. That she's sacrificed everything for us." Sophie's voice got quieter. "But Grandma, you're the one who's always here. You're the one who taught me to read when I was struggling. You're the one who sits with me when I'm sad. Is it wrong that I want to write about you?" I set down the broken cookie, brushing crumbs from my lap, buying time to steady my voice. This was the moment I'd been dreading. The moment when I had to choose between my truth and their peace. "Sweetheart," I said carefully, "you write about whoever your heart tells you to. A hero isn't always the person with the title. It's the person who shows up." "But," I paused, hating myself a little for what I was about to say, "your mother loves you very much. Maybe you could write about both of us." Sophie's face brightened. "I could do that. That's perfect, Grandma." But it wasn't perfect. It was a compromise that left me feeling hollowed out, like I was teaching my granddaughter to split her truth down the middle to keep someone else comfortable. Marcus had been quiet through this exchange, hunched over his algebra homework. After Sophie went to the living room to start her essay, he looked up at me. "That's messed up, Grandma." "Marcus." "No, it is. Mom's never here. Dad works all the time, and Mom's always out networking or whatever. You're the one raising us." His 13-year-old eyes held more wisdom than they should have. "Doesn't that bother you?" I reached across and covered his hand with mine. "What bothers me is seeing you carry worry that isn't yours to carry. Your mother is doing her best." "Is she, though?" He pulled his hand away, not angrily, but firmly. A young man asserting himself. "Because it seems like you're doing all the work and she's getting all the credit." "Marcus, I'm not stupid, Grandma. Sophie might not see it yet, but I do. I remember being little, like 5 or 6, and Mom promising to take me to the park. You know how many times she actually showed up? Twice. You know who took me every single weekend? You." My throat burned with unshed tears. "Your mother was building her career." "Her Instagram followers, you mean?" The bitterness in his voice startled me. "I've seen her phone, Grandma. Thousands of pictures of us, all these captions about motherhood and blessed and my whole world. But you're not in any of them. It's like you don't exist." That's when the dam broke. I couldn't hold it anymore. A sob escaped my lips, and suddenly Marcus was out of his chair, wrapping his thin arms around me. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry." "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong." I held him tight, this boy who was becoming a man, who saw things children shouldn't have to see. I'm just tired, sweetheart. That's all." But tired didn't cover it. I was exhausted down to my bones, not from the physical work, but from the emotional erasure. From watching someone else live off the interest of my investment. That evening, when David came to pick up the kids, I asked him to stay for a moment after they'd gone to the car. "David, we need to talk about Melissa." His face immediately closed off, that defensive wall men put up when they know criticism is coming. "Melissa, don't. She's telling the children not to write about me in their school assignments. She's their mother," he interrupted. "She has a right to want recognition from her own kids." "But at the expense of erasing me?" My voice cracked. "David, I'm not asking for a parade. I'm just asking to exist in their memories as more than background noise." He rubbed his face, suddenly looking older than his 38 years. "What do you want me to do, Mom? Start a fight with my wife because you feel unappreciated? You chose to help raise them. Nobody forced you." The words hit like a slap. "I chose to help because they needed me. Because your wife was never there. That's not fair. She's building a business. She's trying to contribute to our family financially." His voice rose, defensive and desperate. "Not everyone can just be the fun grandparent who bakes cookies and plays games. Someone has to think about the future. And someone has to think about the present," I shot back. "About two children who barely know their own mother because she's too busy performing motherhood online to actually practice it." The silence that followed was devastating. David's face went through a series of emotions: anger, guilt, sadness, resignation. Finally, he sighed. "I can't do this right now, Mom. I'm exhausted. The job is killing me, and I come home to tension I don't understand. Can we not make this harder?" He left without another word, and I stood in my doorway watching his taillights disappear, feeling like I'd just lost something I couldn't name. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I looked up Melissa's Instagram account that Marcus had mentioned. I'd never been much for social media, but curiosity and hurt drove me to my old laptop. There it was at Melissa Mom Life. 43,000 followers. I scrolled through post after post. Pictures of Marcus and Sophie smiling, perfectly staged. Melissa in every shot, always the center, always the star. The captions made my stomach turn. Another sleepless night, but seeing their smiles makes it all worth it. #MomLife, #blessed, #worth it. Spent the afternoon teaching Sophie about self-love and confidence. These moments are everything. #raising strong girls, #mom of the year. Marcus made honor roll again. So proud of the young man he's becoming. All those homework sessions are paying off. #proudmom, #hard work pays off. Not one mention of me. Not one photograph that included my face. I had been cropped out of their entire story. But it was the most recent post, from just 2 days ago, that broke something inside me. A picture of Sophie hugging Melissa, both of them laughing. The caption read, "She asked me today what unconditional love means. I told her, it's a mother's love. It's showing up every single day, even when you're tired, even when it's hard, even when no one sees. That's what mothers do. We show up, boys." #mother-daughter bond, #unconditional love, #always there. I closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of my living room, surrounded by the evidence of my love, the photos, the drawings, the handmade cards, and realized something terrifying. Melissa wasn't just taking credit. She was rewriting history. And if I didn't speak up soon, that false history would become the only truth my grandchildren would know. But speaking up meant risking everything. It meant potentially destroying my son's marriage, alienating my grandchildren, shattering the fragile peace we'd all been pretending was real. The question that kept me awake that night wasn't whether to speak. It was whether my silence had already cost me more than my voice ever could. There comes a moment in every silent war when you realize your patience has become complicated. I had spent years believing that love would speak for itself, that truth needed no defender. But watching Melissa steal my story, frame by frame, post by post, I finally understood. Sometimes silence isn't grace. Sometimes it's just surrender. And I was done surrendering. 3 weeks after I discovered Melissa's Instagram shrine to fictional motherhood, Sophie's school called. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was folding laundry when my phone rang. "Mrs. Chin? This is Principal Davidson from Oakwood Middle School. I'm calling about Sophie." My heart stopped. "Is she hurt?" No, nothing like that. But we need a parent or guardian to come pick her up. She's quite upset, and we haven't been able to reach her mother or father." Of course they hadn't. David was on a job site 2 hours away, and Melissa was probably at a coffee shop staging the perfect flat lay photo for her busy mom persona. I was there in 15 minutes. Sophie sat in the principal's office, her eyes red and swollen, clutching her backpack like a life raft. When she saw me, she burst into fresh tears and ran into my arms. "Oh, sweetheart. What happened?" Principal Davidson handed me a tissue box. There was an incident during English class. The students were presenting their hero essays, the assignment Sophie mentioned to you. My stomach dropped. "I see. Sophie wrote about you, Mrs. Chen. It was a beautiful essay, truly moving. But when she finished reading it, Another student, Emma Richardson, made a comment. She said, "That's weird. My mom follows your mom on Instagram, and she's always posting about how she does everything for you guys. Why would you write about your grandma instead of your mom?" Sophie's body shook against mine. Everyone started whispering, "Grandma." They all pulled out their phones and started looking at Mom's Instagram. And then Tommy said I was lying. That I was making you sound more important than you really are because I was trying to be different. Sophie told Tommy that wasn't true, Principal Davidson continued, and things escalated. Sophie started crying and saying that you're the one who actually takes care of them. Emma defended her mother's posts, saying adults don't lie about important things like that. It became quite heated. I held Sophie tighter, fury and heartbreak warring inside me. My granddaughter had been humiliated for telling the truth, for honoring the love I'd given her. And the weapon used against her? Her own mother's carefully constructed lies. "Thank you for calling me," I said quietly. "May I take her home?" "Of course. We'll mark it as an excused absence for emotional distress." In the car, Sophie was silent for a long time. Then, in a small voice, "Grandma, why does Mom do that? Why does she pretend?" I gripped the steering wheel, choosing my words carefully. "Sometimes, sweetheart, people need others to see them a certain way. It makes them feel valuable. But it's not fair to you." "No," I admitted. "It's not." "Are you going to tell her? Are you going to make her stop?" I looked at my granddaughter's tear-stained face and made a decision that should have been made years ago. "Yes, Sophie. I am." That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I called a family meeting, not asked, not suggested, but demanded. I told David to bring Melissa and the children to my house at 7 o'clock. My voice must have carried something new, something sharp, because my son didn't argue. They arrived right on time. Melissa walked in wearing her usual armor, designer athleisure, perfect makeup, phone in hand. She barely looked at me. "Alice, I really don't have time for—" "Sit down, Melissa." Something in my tone made her stop. Marcus and Sophie sat on the couch, watching with wide eyes. David stood near the door, nervous energy radiating off him. I pulled out my laptop and set it on the coffee table. "We're going to look at something together." I opened Melissa's Instagram page, and her face went pale. "For the past decade," I began, my voice steady despite my shaking hands, "I have raised your children. Not helped. But I have been here every single day while you built your online empire of lies." "Mom," David started, but I held up my hand. "No, David. Not this time. Your wife has 43,000 people believing she's Mother of the Year. But do you know what happened to Sophie today?" I told them about the incident at school, watching Melissa's face shift from defensive to uncomfortable. She was humiliated for telling the truth about me. "Your daughter was called a liar because the fiction you've created online has become more real to the world than the reality we live every day." Melissa's voice came out tight. "I never lied. I never said you didn't help." "Help?" I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Is that what you call it? Let me show you what help looks like." I opened the folder on my laptop, years of documentation I'd quietly kept. Photos with timestamps. Receipts from school supplies I'd bought, clothes, shoes, field trip fees. Screenshots of my calendar showing every doctor's appointment, every parent-teacher conference, every school event I'd attended. Copies of report cards sent to my address. Cards the children had made me, drawings labeled, "To Grandma from Marcus/Sophie." "This," I said, clicking through the evidence, "is not help. This is raising children. Your children. While you performed motherhood for strangers on the internet." Melissa's hands were shaking. "You're making me sound like a monster. I was building a career, building something for this family." "You were building your ego," I said quietly. "And I would have been fine with that, Melissa. I would have stayed silent forever if it only affected me. But today, your daughter was humiliated because of your lies. Today, the narrative you've constructed hurt a child. Your child." Sophie was crying again. Marcus had his arm around her, his jaw clenched tight. David finally spoke, his voice heavy. "Is this true, Melissa? All of it?" David, you know I love our children. That's not what I asked. He looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. Is what Mom is saying true? Has she been the one raising them while you... What? Take pictures? The silence was deafening. Finally, Melissa whispered, I didn't think it mattered. You were happy to help, Alice. You never complained. That's because I loved them too much to make it about me, I said. But you made it about you. Every single day, you made it about you. And now the whole world thinks you're something you're not, and my grandchildren are caught in the middle of your fiction. Marcus stood up, his voice breaking. I knew. I've always known. Grandma is the one who raised us. You're just here sometimes. Melissa's face crumpled, but I felt no satisfaction in it. Only exhaustion. I'm not asking you to confess to the internet, I said. I'm not asking you to destroy what you've built. But I am asking you, no, I'm telling you, that from now on, things change. These children will know the truth. They will know who showed up. And if you want a relationship with them moving forward, you're going to have to actually earn it. Starting today. David looked between his wife and his mother, his face a portrait of a man watching his illusions shatter. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have. You should have, I agreed, not letting him off easy. But now you do. The question is, what are we going to do about it? 6 months have passed since that night. Melissa deleted her Instagram account 2 weeks after our confrontation, not because I demanded it, but because she couldn't keep up the lie once the family knew the truth. She started actually spending time with Marcus and Sophie, though it's awkward and uncertain, like learning to walk after years of sitting still. The children still come to me every day after school. But now Melissa comes too, slowly learning how to be present instead of performing. Sophie rewrote her hero essay and read it at the school assembly, about me with no apologies. Marcus smiles more now, the weight of carrying secrets finally lifted. As for me, I still keep my documentation, my photographs, my evidence. Not because I expect another war, but because I learned something valuable. Love does speak for itself, but sometimes it needs a voice to translate for those who've forgotten how to listen. The truth didn't destroy us. It freed us. My dear friend, if this story touched your heart, I need you to do something for me. Subscribe to Grandma Alice Stories and turn on notifications, because every week I share stories about life's lessons, family struggles, and the wisdom that comes from living long enough to see how everything unfolds. Like this video, if you believe the truth always finds its way, no matter how long it takes. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe a grandparent who feels invisible, or a parent who's lost their way, or anyone carrying the weight of being unseen. And comment below, have you ever been erased from your own story? How did you find your voice? I read every single comment, and your stories matter to me. Remember, my dear, silence may be golden, but truth is priceless. Never let anyone write you out of your own life. Until next time, this is Grandma Alice reminding you, what we do in love is never wasted, even when it takes years for others to see it. Now go hug someone you love, and tell them the truth while you still can. With love and wisdom, Grandma Alice.